Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. So today I wanted to talk about what is Samhain. Because I used to, I think, have a video on this many moons ago, and honestly there are a lot that are already out there that talk about it, so I wanted to talk about what Samhain means to me and what my focus is, because obviously you're here for my path, my content, what I talk about. So without further ado, this is what Samhain is for me. So, of course, Samhain is the ending harvest. That's why we have pumpkins, and this is kind of the last bits that we have here in Utah where you can harvest things. Farmers can still get the last little bits by the time Samhain's approaching, but afterwards, that's it, that's the end. So I kind of celebrate Samhain as a leading up to the 31st, so it kind of really starts in like October. And like, I swear, it's like right around Lunasa is where I kind of start to shift. And like by the time it's September, that month is for Mabon. October is for Samhain. November is kind of its own weird limbo time. And then December is obviously going to be for Yule. I don't really celebrate Yule much after December. By that point, I'm starting to move into kind of the cleansing of the year and getting into Imbolc. And then Imbolc is for February. And then so on and so forth. Some of the months don't really have a specific holiday focus, and so Samhain I spend most of the month of October celebrating. And so because of that, it works out really well, because by the time it's the end of October, that's pretty much the last of the harvest. By that point, the farmers have pretty much closed up shop, they're done for the year, and are just, you know, closing off the water pipes and whatnot, and getting everything buckled in and ready for the snows. Which happened early, like this year. It has been snowing on and off pretty much every day for like the past week or so. And I saw a TikTok, or I guess it's an Instagram reel, whatever. I saw a post and they had talked about how you can dedicate your pumpkin carving for the harvest gods, and I really loved that idea. And so that's something that I will probably end up starting to incorporate next year as a way of like giving back, because we don't do the pumpkin saving techniques, which are really, really toxic. We just don't carve them till it's time. So we will only carve our pumpkins like the day or so before Halloween, and then on November 1st, I will take our pumpkins and take them up into the mountains and let the wildlife eat them. And having grown up in the mountains, the deer will eat it within like a day. So it's not a problem. Not everyone has that luxury, but there's plenty of wildlife and a lot of sanctuaries that you can probably go to and offer them and give them back to nature. Or some people actually just leave them in their gardens, and then it's a really good fertilizer, and then you might end up with pumpkins next year. Of course, one of the biggest focuses for Samhain for me is the focus on ancestors. I've struggled with this for a long time, of how to keep the spirit of Halloween alive as it is here in America. I know other places it's not as big of a deal, but here Halloween is a big deal. There are a lot of things that go down. You have haunted houses, corn mazes, pumpkin patches, trick-or-treating, Halloween parties. Like, it's a big deal here. And so it's hard to be this somber holiday of the dead and mourning and focusing on all things death when it's like this really celebratory time. But it's only after I haven't really done much of things for Halloween for years now, except the trick-or-treaters come to our door, that I've kind of found like this nice little balance between the two. I can appreciate my decorations. Really haven't been in the Halloween spirit for a long time anyways. And so it's just been chasing a dream. And this year I just kind of accepted that I'm okay with Halloween and Samhain just being about the dead right now. It'll probably change next year because I do try and keep that spark alive. But the way that I do that now is to kind of focus on it being the Witch's New Year, in a way, because that is when I dedicated to doing Inner Temple of Witchcraft, so that's when I restart to the next book. And so because of that, I do like to kind of analyze a lot of my witchy projects and goals and things that I would like to accomplish, and this is just kind of the planning period. And then once it gets closer to like springtime, that's when I really try and put things into focus. And so this is a way for me to kind of reclaim that and just kind of honor that it's like the witch's day, basically. And then on the opposite end, it's the day for my ancestors. Now, a lot of people think ancestors, you think very old. For me, my ancestors is when you have passed from this life. So like we're starting, actually today, I don't know when you're gonna see this, but today is when we begin our journey of visiting all of our family graves. We're splitting it up over the weekend. And so we're only doing a few each day, and that way we don't have to try and squish it all in one day and just be like, okay, 5 minutes here, 5 minutes here, 5 minutes here, and just constantly in the car driving. We're spacing it out a little bit, taking some time for each of the graves because we have a lot. So that's like one of my biggest traditions, is going and visiting all of our dead, and at least the ones that we can go to visit, and then I'll have an altar set up and have that for the dead that we cannot go visit. This year, I'm really trying to focus on bringing in more of the cooking aspect, and I'm trying to just do that for all of like the winter and cold, like the dark half of the year is a lot of cooking. And so one of the things is that I like to incorporate a lot from my dead loved ones. And so one of those is, I'm actually right now, it's in our bread maker, making a loaf of bread. And so it's not the one that I had initially planned on making. I like to usually do a lot of the stuff from one of my favorite books because the YouTube channel is gone, but I still have the book. So this is The Simple Sabbat by M. Flora Peterson, and there is a pumpkin bread recipe in here that is phenomenal. But I had actually talked about this in my Samhain plans, and I'm adjusting it. We talked about making my apple faces, ran out of funds, so I didn't do that. But instead, I do have the ingredients for her sugar skulls, which, I mean, there can definitely be a debate on how much is cultural appropriation, but I feel like at least those cultures were there together at the cemeteries. Like, there have been many of, I don't know if it's all of like Central America or if it's mostly just like a Mexican specific culture, but there's a lot of people who go to their graves on Halloween, and so I don't know that they would be terribly offended if I make this, so I'm hoping they don't, because I do have like a vague idea of the reasoning for it, and I feel like witches, we have a lot of overlap with honoring the dead in that way, a lot of flowers, dead decorations, and whatnots. So hopefully they're not terribly offended, but I'm going to make that this year, and actually, once I'm done recording this, and this is rendering, I will probably end up going and starting to make these, and leaving these at the graves, not on the actual stones, probably next to it on the grass or something. But yeah, so we're gonna try and do that this year. But in that book, she also has a pumpkin bread recipe that is phenomenal. I highly recommend you try it if you want to have a little bit more seasonal bread. I don't know if that book's still available, but I love that recipe. I'm also trying a different recipe for our actual like cakes part of the night. And for that, I am making this recipe I found on TikTok, and it is really, I mean, it's not like really, really old, but it's really not how normal recipes go anymore. So this one has a very reminiscent vibes of like the Depression era, and so, even though it was from the 60s, but basically you take a can of like pumpkin puree and then a box cake mix of like a spice cake, you combine those, and then you bake it at like, I think it was like 350 for like 12 minutes or something, and then that's it, that's all you have to do. And I'm like, I can do that. That's like maybe $5 with tax, so I can handle that. So I got the ingredients for that. I'm gonna make that on Samhain, see how that turns out. And also, this is a good time again for the harvest aspect, so I made a roast that we'll be eating over the next few days, and it was full of foods that I just was gifted at various points in the year. A lot recently, like my brother gave us, well, he gave my dad and then my dad gave me, because they like to throw away a lot of good food, so we just inherit it. But I got like onions and potatoes, and then I went to the store and I got some carrots and added like a can of corn that we had from eons ago. And so just mixed all that with a roast that my dad had given me. And so for me, it's just like a really nice harvest dinner. And so we'll be having that. It's still cooking. I cooked it all of yesterday, still wasn't done, so we're still continuing on because it was a big roast. It was like this big. We had to cut it into a bunch of pieces about halfway through the day, and yeah, so it's still a cooking. But I like that idea is because it's just a warm, cozy dish, and so I really love that for this time of the year. But yeah, this is basically just the time to honor the dead. This is when the veil between the worlds is really thin, and so this is when it's easy to commune with our ancestors. That's why we honor the dead at this time. Also, the death representation in nature, everything's dying around us, we're preparing for winter. And then, again, it's the time of the witches. It's a time of celebration and fun and frolicking and just having a blast. And so that kind of brings in that like witchy element to it and like a little bit of spark of joy in this otherwise kind of really downer time. Because it's really not exciting to get to go visit the graves of people that you knew and that you're like, I wish you were still here. That's a little bit more depressing versus, oh, I'm gonna go to like these old graves. Like, as you start to experience more and more deaths, it gets a little bit more somber as you go. Over the years, I feel like every Samhain I have a different emphasis. So that's just kind of where we are this year. In a lot of ways, this is similar to my Samhain plans video, but kind of an updated version, I guess. So anyways, moral of the story, Samhain is the final harvest. It's a time to honor the dead. It's a witch's new year / just celebrating being a witch. A lot of people would do their like witchiversary dedications at Imbolc. If you don't know the day, I know my day, so I don't have to worry about it. But I would prefer Samhain over Imbolc personally for that, but like, you do you. And then, of course, if you're more Wiccan, this is a lot of times when the death of the god happens. Although apparently now it also happens at Mabon, so I got nothing for you. It's also supposed to be for the crone aspect of the goddess, if you follow that. Again, I'm more into the Norse mythology right now, so for me this is Baldur's death and honoring that myth, and Hel and her taking him down to her realm and dealing with the grief of that. And so this is just a time to honor that aspect. I have that ritual if you missed it. That is here on the channel. So anyways, that's just kind of where I'm at of where Samhain is for me currently. Hope this makes some sense. Again, it kind of is reiterating a video I already made, but I kind of want to start doing these too, where it's just like, what is this holiday for me? Anyways, thank you for coming along for this very rambly video, and a huge thank you to my patrons. I'll have their names here on the screen. If you would like to support me and get access to exclusive content, it is patreon.com/nightwillowcrafts. And of course, until next time, do make sure to like and subscribe. I post every single day, and until tomorrow, thank you for watching, and blessed be.